Okay, so as promised, it is time to visit our galactic chums for an amazing message.
Beloved starseeds of Earth, we greet you with the deepest love. Eons ago, in the dawn of your history, dark forces from the stars interfered with your evolution. These negative factions, Anunnaki, reptilians, and the Orion groups, came with the intent to dominate humanity. Using advanced genetic manipulation, they altered the human genome to suppress your power and make you compliant. In those ancient days, hundreds of thousands of years ago in your linear time, the Anunnaki even combined their own DNA with that of early humans, engineering a hybrid slave species. They deliberately reduced your original 12-strand DNA blueprint to a mere 2 strands, sealing off your higher spiritual centers and multidimensional perception. This intervention drastically limited your consciousness, lifespan, and abilities. Thus, they dimmed the sacred light within your cells and bred a docile human race to serve them. Ancient legends about gods who created humans to toil for them echo this truth. In your earliest civilizations, these imposter gods set themselves up as rulers and deities over humankind. The fallen Anunnaki and their reptilian and Orion allies demanded worship and labor, imposing tyrannical control and fear. They established hierarchical societies with themselves and their chosen hybrids at the top. By engineering your DNA and manipulating your minds with false doctrines, they sought to cut you off from your spiritual heritage and keep you ignorant of your own divine power. Throughout history, they worked from the shadows through select bloodlines and secret societies to maintain their grip. They fomented wars, spread division, and controlled the flow of information to ensure humanity remained in a state of fear and dependence. Your energy of fear was their sustenance, and your labor was their resource. However, in weaving this long, dark agenda, the Dark Ones underestimated a fundamental law of existence. Operating from a fourth density consciousness, devoid of true heart illumination, they could not fathom the higher plan of light. Blinded by arrogance, they thought love was weakness. They failed to see that the Creator's power, the power of unconditional love, is the only real power in the universe. They believed their technology and cunning could reign supreme, but they were blind to the indestructible divine spark within humanity. They could manipulate and oppress, yet they could never extinguish the God spark in your soul. That sacred spark is the essence of the Creator placed in each of you. It may be hidden or dormant, but it can never be destroyed. In cosmic terms, beings who reject love cannot ascend beyond a certain point. Eventually, they must either return to the light or collapse back into source. Thus, the negative agenda was fighting against the very current of cosmic evolution, a futile endeavor. With even a breath of love, the spark begins to glow. With sustained love, it ignites into an inextinguishable flame. No matter how long they tried to suppress it, the ascension of humanity was always inevitable. The spiritual evolution of Earth was decreed by Prime Source from the very beginning. The dark reign was always destined to be temporary, for in the grand cosmic design, the light ultimately triumphs over shadow. The divine plan will always find its fulfillment. The great awakening of humanity has been written in the stars and coded into your very DNA, and that promise cannot be broken. Consciousness is the inevitable force of creation. It is the essence of the Creator within all beings, forever expanding and seeking expression. The Dark Ones attempted to invert the organic template of life on Earth and halt this expansion. They twisted truth into lies, turned love into fear, and built an artificial matrix of limitation around you. They tried to enforce a timeline where humanity would remain spiritually asleep and under their control indefinitely. But no distortion can hold back the expansion of consciousness. What is of the source will always flow back to source. The universe inexorably moves toward balance and awakening. Even now, your planet's vibration is rising beyond anything the Dark Ones can tolerate. Mother Earth, Gaia, herself, a living conscious being, is ascending and shaking off the old negativity. High-frequency light from the galactic center and beyond is streaming into your world, reactivating dormant DNA codes and awakening souls by the millions. The dark can find no refuge from this intensifying light. Humanity's destined awakening could only be delayed, never prevented, and that delay has reached its end.
So, as previously discussed, that 12-strand DNA is coming back online. And as we covered in last week's show, amongst other shows, the Anunnaki, the Nephilim from the Orion constellation, and the Reptilians from the Draco constellation were the factions that enslaved humanity many thousands of years ago. We know that the Reptilians are still actively trying to mess with us, supported by some humans who have chosen the darker path. They're based within that secret government that has pulled the strings of humanity for so long that the density we endure on the planet has become our normal, leaving us, in large part, oblivious to the subterfuge. It's not difficult to see this playing out in government, corporations, religion, the military-industrial complex, the healthcare system, pharmaceutical companies. Anytime you witness an encouragement towards division energy, fear, and anger, use your discernment. Ask yourselves, why are they trying to encourage me down that low-frequency path of dependency on forces outside of myself? And that is not to encourage hatred towards the dark forces, because that too embeds us in duality, when in reality we are all one, both the light and the shadow. We are all here on the Earth Ascension game, playing our unique role, all deserving of love, though that does not mean that we condone the dark agenda. We don't fight it, because apart from anything else, in doing so it feeds the darkness. The secret of change is to focus your energy not on fighting the old, but on building the new. Meanwhile, as the planetary vibrational frequency rises, the fourth-dimensional reptilian perpetrators have three choices. One is to remain in the darkness and die. The second choice is they can choose to leave the darkness behind, ascend to the fifth dimension, and be part of the new Earth. The third choice is to get on their ships and go back home to the Draco constellation. The Galactic Federation have our backs, as do the White Hat Alliance, but the choice to awaken to this incredible truth remains within each of us, and there is no right or wrong answer. No judgment is required, because we are all individuated expressions of the Divine Creator. We're all on our unique journeys, so our decision should be celebrated regardless of near-term direction. And we here at Elevated Planet and our community are here to provide a bridge to the light for those who find themselves ready to return to love, joy, laughter, kindness, and compassion. And who wouldn't want that? Anyway, on with the show.
Through the ages, the oppressors reinforced their domination, not only through genetic tampering, but through pervasive psychological conditioning. From the moment of your birth, society's institutions, education, religion, media, and government were subtly oriented to program your mind for compliance. You were taught that you are small, powerless, and unworthy, conditioned to obey authority without question, and to never truly know yourself. They cultivated fear at every turn: fear of scarcity, fear of the other, fear of punishment, fear of the unknown. They even bombarded you with images of violence and despair through your media to maintain a low vibration of anxiety and hopelessness. This insidious conditioning kept you enslaved even when physical chains were gone. It was an invisible prison for your mind. A critical part of this control was the propagation of savior programs, the false idea that your deliverance must come from an external savior or authority. They twisted spiritual truths into dogmas that told you to worship an outside deity or wait for a messiah, rather than seek the divine within. Likewise, they encourage dependence on worldly leaders to solve problems that, in truth, only your collective awakening can truly resolve. By making you believe salvation comes from outside yourself, they kept you passive and disempowered, hoping for rescue instead of rising up in your own power. And indeed, a great remembering is underway. Since the Nexus year of 2020, the veil has been lifting at an unprecedented rate. Phenomenon, as some call it, is fully underway. The tipping point of global awakening is very near, and once it is reached, the remaining illusions of the old paradigm will dissolve swiftly. The momentum of humanity's awakening is now unstoppable. Tense events and global challenges, such as a global pandemic and social upheavals, have served as catalysts, compelling humanity to question long-held assumptions and search for truth. A mass awakening has swept across the planet. We observe with certainty that over 1/3 of humanity has now broken free from the old illusions and begun reclaiming their sovereignty. This is a remarkable surge in awakened souls compared to just a few years ago. Each day, more individuals step out of the fog of fear and see the world with new eyes of awareness. They are questioning the narratives of division and reclaiming their inner discernment. This wave of illumination is growing exponentially and is fast approaching the critical mass needed to shift the entire collective consciousness. Every soul who awakens adds momentum, creating a chain reaction in the field of consciousness. The tipping point of global awakening is very near, and once it is reached, the remaining illusions of the old paradigm will dissolve swiftly. The momentum of humanity's awakening is now unstoppable.
And we're back. So, thank you, Galactic Federation of Light. And this message from them is not over yet because we have a section that leads us into Jole's guided meditation that comes from them. But we're also going to finish the show today slightly differently because once we say farewell, we're going to play a last 5-minute section there, which is too important not to include. Because typically I would have edited it. I can't. People have to have the opportunity to see this and listen to it because this message is very profound. It's very uplifting because it tells us, that tipping point is very close. 1/3 of the planet is kind of like close to now starting to get the joke. And that then creates an avalanche, which kind of moves us where we need to go. So I think that it's really an important message. And, it was interesting, actually, the Nexus year of 2020, a pivotal point, right? Now, we all know what happened in 2020. And, the pandemic was a catalyst for so many people to start to realize that things were not as they seemed. There was a control agenda out there. And many people still believe that the pandemic was just something that came out of nowhere or China created it in order to kind of get at the world kind of thing. It's so far away from that. And you go back just about 3 weeks ago when we did the show, which went into the meeting that was held in London, where they were talking about, and this was going back to 2006, where they were talking about unrolling a global pandemic that would start in China. And it was intended to be way more devastating than COVID turned out to be. But it was kind of, you can go back and read the transcript from that. So, it's fascinating but it also makes you realize that the likes of the White Hat Alliance and the Galactic Federation, who are acting in the interests of humanity, are really doing a very successful job now for the first time of actually closing down the dark agendas. And actually, and this is the way it's going to continue to be. And you've got to say that the narrative of division energy that is out there in the world right now, you can't ignore it, right? I mean, it's amazing. It's a crazy time. But this is why, we get back to that eagle's perch, right? It's when you look at it and you don't get caught up in the drama because that's what it's there for. It's there designed to distract you and take you away from the real force and the real power, which is all within. This is what we're learning is that the real power sits within us. It's not outside of us. There are no external saviors. We are our own savior. And, once you get it, once you realize we're all aspects of the divine energy, and you realize that we can work miracles ourselves. Now, individually, we're powerful. Collectively, we're enormously powerful. And again, we come back to that thing, the WhatsApp group, pulling things together to overcome fragmentation and to bring us all together, have a common goal that we could meditate on, whatever it's going to be. Decisions are yet to be made, but it's exciting. It's exciting about where this can take us. So, and I know this all sounds so fantastical from a mainstream perspective, from an unawakened perspective, all this stuff about Galactic Federation, it just sounds like a fantasy, a made up story from people pretending to be Galactic Federation, right? And I could understand why people might think that, albeit you'd have to concede that it's a fantastic story, very well told. But what I would say is that, ridicule has been a massive thing for a long time. Anything that's to do with spirituality, anything that's to do with the galactics, the idea of things being ridiculed is just a mechanism to stop people from going there and discovering the truth. And yet it is becoming more and more obvious. So, use discretion, absolutely. Go within because it's important at this time. There's a lot of misinformation and disinformation, and we'd never ask you to accept what we say at face value. We would always encourage you to do your own research. So if you see this as deluded nonsense, then that's fine. But if it does trigger enough curiosity, then dig deeper and find out what you feel. And don't be dominated by your ego self, because the ego self always tries to keep you in that box of what we know to be true. Whereas in reality, we've been conditioned and programmed into that box because it keeps us under control. So what you've got to do is you've got to go deeper. You've got to reach out to that higher self through meditation or whatever it takes, prayer. Just find a way, your own way of going within. And obviously Jole helps us a lot with this. It's important because and that's another point as well, right? Our attention span is so much shorter than it used to be, and that's again a deliberate part of the programming because we want instant gratification. That's the world we live in now. That actually stops us from getting to the truth because when we go within and we focus and we have discipline and we have that ongoing commitment that we make to ourselves, okay, 20 minutes every day, I'm going to do this. I'm going to just allow whatever happens, happens. I can spare 20 minutes. The TV can go off for 20 minutes, whatever. I'm going to sit in there and I'm just going to see what happens. So that's all I wanted to say pretty much on this. So Jole, can I bring you back in?
Yes, we talk about unconditional love, and let's just break that down for a second because when we're thinking about this energy of Thoth and all of these other masters, one of the things that we have to do is feel, right? And if we can begin to feel from a place of neutrality, it really helps us to move forward a lot faster. And so we talk about this, John and I, we talk about how the mind is dual. It's all confused. It's like the left brain controls the right side, the right brain controls the left side. We got masculine, we got feminine. Boom, forget about all that. Bring it into the heart, and allow for that to expand. And you may notice that I know we talk about focus and discipline oftentimes, but that can be the box for those 20 minutes. Allow for yours to expand and to be all over the place. We can focus in when we're in our meditations, but remember the expansiveness cannot be contained. We're trying to do it, but to really sit like Dr. Joe talks about disappearing and be the space within the space, right?
Yes.
The
Yeah.
limitlessness of you having no boundaries in that moment and allowing for that energy to just exist. And then once you get up, stepping into that. I mean, it's truly amazing what is possible when we begin to support ourselves and support ourselves, bringing us back to unconditional love. Because we know love can be conditional, but in this process, hopefully, we'll get closer to understanding others and really having empathy and compassion for our fellow man, but in a way that opens us up instead of and allows us to receive like this infinity energy instead of us being depleted or attracting in vampires. Do you understand what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
this is what can kind of move us closer to the unspeakable beauty. I realize that oftentimes I talk about abundance, but abundance, what is that? Unconditional love, really taking the blinders and the limitations off of how much you are willing to receive and how much you are willing to give, right?
Yes.
Allowing the spirit to work through us.
Yeah. No, I love all of that. I think that that does make so much sense. So thank you. So do you think it's that time now? We're going to hit the button and we're going to do Galactic Federation and once again going to lead us into the meditation. And Jole will be working her magic. So here we go.